Hello, it's Jimmy here, the Riley's. Got here to look at a Renault Traffic. Okay, so if we switch the ignition off, switch it back on, you get engine failure hazard. Start it up. So basically it just stays like that. You got a spanner, engine light on, and engine failure hazard. So we're just going to set up a diagnostic scan here. So traffic 3, and I want to look in the ECM, but we'll do a full scan and see if there's any faults elsewhere as well. Okay, so it looks like we've got one fault here, 3 in the ECM, 1 in here, UCH. Let's see what else we got. So this one is not going to be transponder. It's for the alarm. Particle filter clogged, oil dilution, and particle filter outside tolerances. Air temperature sensor circuit invalid. So we've got one fault there and 3 in the ECM. Okay, so for this van, I did expect the oil dilution and particle filter clogged, because the customer already told me he had issues like that before he came here. Now it's been to exactly five different garages, and each one of them has cleaned the DPF. I think maybe the rest of them have done regens, because he said, oh, they done something. The customer didn't really know what they done, but he said, oh, it worked for a short period, but a little bit down the road the problem came back, and he said he's again just a few days ago had the oil changed, but still the oil dilution fault sits. He said all of the 5 garages have tried to clear it, but it doesn't clear. You clear the code and it's back. So should we have a go at that, and I'll show you what I mean and what they were trying to do. So here's the oil dilution fault. Okay, if we go in there and try to clear the fault, it might clear temporarily, but it will come back, I think. So he said the other garages were having trouble trying to reset that, because they're clearing the code, but then when they go back in and check, the oil dilution is still there, even though they've changed the oil. It's taking a while, this one. Don't know why it's taking so long. Let's do that again with the engine off. Okay, that's done. Read the fault codes. No fault codes. Okay, so with the fault codes cleared, we've got a message there saying top up oil level. Now he said he's just had the oil change, so maybe they haven't topped it up enough. So I suppose this is where he was what he was getting from the last garages out. They're clearing the code. You're going to drive down the road now, and these faults will pretty quick, they will come back. Okay, so if we go back in now and we'll check the fault codes again. Engine oil dilution. So the fault is still there. Now with that fault there logged, the vehicle is not going to do its own regen, and pretty shortly you'll get a message back for the DPF saying that it's blocked, because of course it's the pressure is high, but it can't even try and regen because it's got this fault here. It's a safety feature. If you've got oil dilution, the van will not do its own self-regeneration process. So let's go back. Anyway, in regards to this fault, I wasn't expecting that one. Air temperature sensor circuit. Not sure what sensor that means at the minute. Let me have a look. See if we turn the engine off, ignition on. Are we getting the ambient air temperature sensor come up? Let's open the door, close it. Yep, we are. So that's working. Let's do a code search for that. Nothing straight away. It doesn't point to doesn't point to anything straight away. AdBlue dosing malfunction. It's not related to that. I'm not sure why that's coming up. What you can do with these vans, these Renault Trafics, because obviously these Renaults give like these weird codes, DTC00796 or whatever. If we go back from here and search this as a Vauxhall Vivaro, you'll get like the P codes will come up instead of like normal P. I'll show you how that works. So I'm going to manually select a Vauxhall Vivaro. I need to check what year this was. Right, it's a 2018, and I'm going to go to Vivaro. Now if we run the same scan as a Vivaro, let's see what happens. Well, we haven't even got the same modules here, so maybe that's not going to work. So for the oil there, you get a different code, a P0070 oil life exceeded. But it doesn't give you the other modules here for that, so that's not going to work. We'll go back. Because what can happen sometimes, you search it as a Vauxhall and you'd get sort of more of an English explanation of what's going on. So you might get air sensor fault, whereas if you plug it in as a more of an English sort of version of vehicle, then you'd rather than a French, French would use a different wording for it. Say if you use it as a Vivaro, you might get, instead of an air temperature sensor, you'd get like an ambient air temperature sensor. So a bit of a better description. Let's go back to Renault now. Okay, for that code, let's try the database for it. Maybe there's something in here. Yeah, it's a 2019. No results found. Okay, so there's no results found for that. No, what I'll try and do is get rid of that DTC and put a P there. Search it as a P0070 ambient air temperature sensor. But the ambient air temperature sensor looks like it's working fine. Okay, so I'm trying to search the live data for air temperature sensor, see if we can get any sort of readings, but we're not getting anything there from this module. Let's try it in the ECU. Air inlet flap, air regulation, inlet air temperature. So could be that. Just because we're getting a description of that, we have to manifold air temperature. Okay, so that'll be the map sensor, and low pressure EGR, measured airflow, low pressure EGR, air temperature. I'm going to just read all of the air temperature sensors there, see which one may look like it's okay. Let's just have a look at those ones. Inlet air temperature sensor. So they all seem to be moving as I'm accelerating it. Of course, there's going to be different temperatures as you rev it up. Only one that's not moving is this one. Now the thing is, that could be just an old fault. I haven't even tried to clear that yet, so maybe someone, when they're working on it, they've disconnected the ambient air temperature sensor. Unless it's not the ambient air temperature sensor and it is a different air temperature sensor, which could be the one on the manifold. Let's just try clear everything. What's that say? Oil level sensor circuit below the so the oil level's below minimum. Okay, we're going to need to look at that. So I'm just going to clear all of these codes and take it for a quick drive and see if this one comes back. If it is a permanent fault, surely it's going to come back same as the oil dilution one there does. Okay, so checking the engine oil level, yeah, it is very low on oil now. This guy's come from about an hour and a half away, but yeah, there is oil in there, but it is low, so that's going to need topping up. Okay, so the customers showed me this is the old sensor, so someone's changed this sensor, they've changed that exhaust turbo pressure sensor there, and he said they've changed various other sensors that he's not really sure which other ones they were, but I'm guessing maybe someone's been playing around with the ambient air temperature sensor, which sits right there. Now I know if you disconnect that, or if it's not working, immediately you'll get a light back on the dash. So I don't think that ambient sensor is not working, but I'm not sure what was going on there. See, now a lot of vehicles will use an airflow meter that's got an inbuilt air temperature sensor on it, and also you can see clearly on the diagnostic down here that the manifold sensor has got a temperature sensor on it as well, air temperature sensor, this one. Okay, now sorry if I'm going from bit to bit, I'm not keeping it all in the same storyline here, I know, but I'm finding different issues is the problem. So I'm going to top up the engine oil, and then we'll get back to this, what I was talking about at the start of the video about resetting the oil dilution. He's been to 5 garages, he said, and 5 different garages couldn't reset the oil dilution, even though 2 of them changed the oil, and they're just clearing the code. I'll show you how you can reset the oil dilution, because with the oil dilution fault your DPF won't regenerate, like I said. So I'm just topping the oil up. I'm going to put about a half a litre in and then recheck it. I just had a little bit more than half a litre now. We've probably got a couple 100ml left, so we'll recheck the oil level now. Okay, so we're sitting around about here, so it still needs a little bit more. Okay, we've got that sitting round about in the middle of the 2 lines there, which is round about perfect. Okay, back in the vehicle, we've got the engine failure hazard on now, which what that does is it now disables these buttons, so we can't use the buttons. And the engine failure hazard is back on because we've now got the particle filter clog back up. So again, I'm just going to temporarily clear those codes. This is how you reset the oil. Okay, clear those. Now that has disappeared and our little buttons right here are now working. Yeah. So right, let me just remember now what I need to do. I think we need to go to service intervals and then press and hold the button. So keep holding it. There you go. Press again. Wait till that stops flashing. That's the oil reset. Now I'm also going to go onto the diagnostic machine here, look in the special functions, see if we have an oil dilution that we can change. Service interval of change of oxidation. Okay, so I can't find any other options in there for that. And what I did notice is this one, I never even took notice of that, but that fault was in the urea dosing module, but obviously it is the ambient air temperature sensor fault. What I'm going to do is I'm going to come back from here. Let's see, special functions. Here we've got oil reset. Let's just try and do an automatic reset if we can. I'm just doing this to make sure that it's been reset. Oil change interval. Oh, it's asking me. Let's put it to 12,000 miles. Okay, so I'll put that to 365 days or 12,000 miles. That's done. Okay, now with the engine running, we haven't got the low engine oil warning, and we will soon get back the errors for the DPF. Okay, so I've just researched this as a Vivaro again. Now we have got, again, the same fault, ambient air temperature sensor circuit. Okay, so I managed to get a new wing mirror here from Bennett's Car Parts. It's around about 200 quid. It's got the sensor on it. So if we remove the panel here from the door, we've got a couple of 10mm bolts in here that we can just open. So it's as simple as that really, couple of bolts, get the wing mirror out, and we can just put the new mirror back in the same place. Just there like that. So now you can see, after maybe 3 or 4 miles of test drive, that none of the faults have come back. So it's all to do with a wing mirror really. Well, we've been through this before. Same, I've done this exact same fault on dozens of vans, but where this one differs is the actual temperature was working, but we still had a fault within the system. So now the next step, what I'm going to do is, I think I've already showed you where we got a little bit of a delay coming from the reading of this pressure. As the RPMs come down, the pressure should come down at the same, but there's a couple of second delay. As it idles down, the pressure takes a little bit further to come back down and meet the RPM. So I know what that is. It's going to be a partial blockage in this little pipe down here. So basically just move the air pipe, remove that little sensor down there. So someone's already replaced that before, but what they haven't done is they haven't cleared this metal pipe that goes back down along. So replacing the sensor is not going to do anything. Okay, so I've removed this little piece of angled rubber hose, and I've got some guitar wire on a drill, and we're going to get that inserted in there, down in the hole, and we're going to drill it through. So after 10 or 15 minutes of doing that, we've got it all the way through. Okay, so my next procedure here, what I'm going to do, I've got a compressor set to 130 psi. I've got DPF cleaning fluid in the gun here, and I've attached that now down to the hose. So what this is going to do, this is also going to clean that hose out a little bit better, and at the same time it's also going to clean the DPF. So this is DPF cleaning fluid from launch, and we'll get it squirted in. Now you can see that I'm pulling the trigger at 130 psi, and the fluid is going in nice and easy. If that pipe was still blocked, what would happen is that would burst off. Of course, the pressure would build up and it would just push the pipe back off because there's too much back pressure. But you can see it's flowing nice and easily now. So that's going to go down there, clean the pipe and clean the DPF at the same time. Now we've reconnected everything back up, we're just going to come back inside, hold the revs up at round about 3000 RPM for around about 5 minutes. So we're going to see a lot of smoke like that, or vapor, basically steam coming from the exhaust. We've got fluid in there and it's generating heat, so you will get some steam. Now you can see we have 82 millibars of pressure at 3000 RPM. Now even though the pressure is good, what's just happened now is it looks like we are getting up to sort of close to 600 degrees, so maybe triggering off a regen, even though it doesn't need one now. But the soot in the particle filter there at 21 grams needs to come down. So now all of that smoke has died down, we can take the vehicle on another road test again. Now what you can see on this road test is we have 630 degrees, so the van has triggered off a regen just to bring down the soot in the particle filter. That is just a calculation of soot. Now the soot is actually not going to be that high because we've cleaned it, but of course the van doesn't know that, so it's going to wait until the soot loading has come down. You can see that's all coming down, the regen is active. I'm not forcing a regen, the van is doing its own regen on a test drive. Okay, we are back from a test drive. So now up around 3000 RPM we have 40 millibars, 41 millibars of pressure. Down at idle we have 11 or 12 millibars so far, but it will go down a little bit again in a minute. Pressure upstream of the turbine is all working fine. Particle filter soot grams down to 3 grams at the minute. Again, all of these items will reduce as it goes on a longer journey. And now this sensor here, pressure upstream of the turbine. So if I show you, if we give it an acceleration, sorry, let that sort of, as the RPM comes down, that should come down to match it at the same speed. So if your RPM comes down to 800 RPM or whatever it's idling at, and this is still at sort of 1400, and then it goes 1300, 1200, back down to 1095 with a bit of a delay, you know you got a blockage in the pipe. Now one thing I will mention on this, I'm not sure if I noticed that at the start, or I may have got a bit confused with it as well, but once you've got the sensor fault in the mirror for the ambient temperature sensor, your oil dilution fault will keep coming back. So you have to get that mirror sorted to avoid your oil dilution fault as well. And now if we go on here and we check all of these codes, swap it around, let's go back here, we should have 0 fault code. So if we exit off that, do a scan again, all of these now should come up green. So ECM and the urea dosing control module there, all, don't ask me why they put the temperature sensor into the urea dosing control module, but it's obviously wired into the same harness. So if we take off this mirror cover, I'll show you something just for a bit of laughs. Okay, so we've got no faults on the van. Now let's disconnect that ambient temperature sensor, plug right here. Now keep an eye on the dashboard, give it a couple of seconds. We've got anti-pollution fault, AdBlue fault, spanner lights on, and you'll have all sorts of faults back in the system. Once you drive it about a mile down the road, you're going to have particle filter blockage, you're going to have urea dosing control module, and what most people I think are doing is they're looking in the ECM. Well, we don't have a fault there, and you might have a fault, but yeah, there it is, it's in there. So we're going to have a new fault back in the urea dosing control module. Air temperature sensor circuit invalid, same one we had before, I think. Now just watch, we've got all of those lights on there, yeah? We'll plug that back in, give it a few seconds, boom, everything disappears. So that's it, I'm all finished on this Renault Traffic, and I'll see you on the next video.